Hi, welcome to one of our first live cast. We're not sure how it's going to go. We got a lot of new stuff here. We're going to give it a shot. Today we got Barb Parker from West Florida University. She's already in the water training. She's going to show us how she got in the water and what she's doing to comply with everything.
It's not showing up.
Okay.
It's not on. It's
Barb,
not on Facebook. Yes.
you're on.
Okay. Hi.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Now-
I have a little bit of a lag on my Facebook feed, so I can't see what's going on.
Don't worry about it. Tell me, you're in the water training already?
We are. This was our fourth day of training, and things are going great. It's sunny. It's about between 80 and 85 degrees each day.
Wow. Well, what did it take for you to get in the water? I live in Boston, and it's going to be quite a while before we get in the water, it seems.
Right. We were fortunate. We have some private clubs in the area that have a full-size swimming pool and with diving boards, and we were able to meet the requirements of the city and the county and the state actually by going through our health department, and we happen to be under the same umbrella as hotel pools. So we're a commercial pool, but since we're under that and hotels are open, then we're doing fine.
Awesome. Well, I have a setup of your pool ready to run. Let's play it.
Hi, I'm Barb Parker from Port City Diving in Alabama, and today we're going to look at the fact that some of us are actually getting to open and start practices again. So today I'm going to walk you through the way that we're going to be socially distancing so that we're following all of the public guidelines. First of all, make sure you call your public health department. Make sure you're following any guidelines they have. That's why we have this yellow line here, is that we know that this is our space and the area that we're going to be working with for the next couple weeks. So come on and let's see how we do our workout. All right, first of all, we did 6 feet apart spacing for all of our mats. I use yoga mats. They're about $6 to $8 a piece. When I started out with a basic 4, so I did 6 feet from corner to corner on each mat in a 4 square. Then from there, I used whatever deck I had and just did 6 feet back and 6 feet over. So each diagonal has a minimum of 6 feet in between. And then that's going to be that part.
Okay, welcome back, Barbara.
Yep.
So that was you setting up the mats for everybody in their warm-up. How did your warm-ups go?
They went fine. We started with a lot of basic skills, but the divers were great about staying on their mat. They were the correct distance apart, and they really enjoyed it. I think they really enjoy being back into the swing.
Okay, well, let's see how good the warm-ups went.
Okay.
Now, can you talk us through this, Barbara?
Okay, so basically what we did was we started out with our
Great. Okay, so how did you manage the practice with going in the water? How was that all set up?
It was basically set the same way. I believe that you have a video that explains how we did it.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, we have moved over now. So we've done our dry land, we've done our warm-up period. Now we've moved over to the pool. I'm currently standing in the coach's position, and I've marked everything off with sidewalk chalk so that when we move mats and that sort of thing, we can see where they need to go from A to B. Each diver, when they come in, will start out with their mat. They will take their mat to another position by the pool. At the end of the practice, we wipe all the mats down with like Clorox cleanup, something that's got some sort of cleaning aspect to it. So we're going to start here. The divers actually will not be using a ladder right now. Well, they will be, but I'll show you that in a minute. They're going to go off the board. They're going to come out at the corner of the pool. From the corner, you can see there's a series of mats with arrows. Each arrow points to a mat. Each mat, tip to tip, is 6 feet or more apart. They're going to follow it around, come around, come around, come around. There are actually 1, 2, 3, 4 mats here before they get back up on the board. Then they have the same thing on the other side for the 3 meter. We actually are scheduling, we have more mats down here than we currently have divers coming. That way, when a diver is switching boards, the person who goes up the high board ladder Then if the next person is switching boards, they will come from the green mat to the red mat, and then they will be the next line up here. So it'll be a little bit of a waiting game, but everyone should be safely apart. The last thing we have, and we have this on both sides, we have our second coach's station, and then we have another station, a water station for wall work on either side. Those particular divers then will be using this ladder or the ladder on that side corresponding to get up and then move back into the purple spot in line. So there we have it, your way to have social distancing while you're diving.
So that looked great on the deck. Did it really work? Were the kids staying away? Or were they hugging, greeting each other, coughing on each other?
Well, you know, the good thing is that even though they're 6 feet apart, they can still talk to each other. And because we have so few people, they can still visit with each other without having to be socially close together. So, I mean, they had a great time, and everybody stayed on their mats. And in fact, now that it's a little cooler today, I saw them laying on their mats in the sun to try to stay warm.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at how the practice actually ran. Okay?
Okay.
This is a section now where anybody has any questions, they can fill in the comments section, and Barb's here to answer any questions you might have.
The biggest thing that we realize is that every part of the country is going to be different. This may not work for everyone, but you've got to know what questions to ask your health department or your area. And a lot of it's going to be us reaching out to the local pools, the summer league pools. They may be places that we haven't been in a long time. We might have to say we will go in and help to rehab their boards for them so that we can use them. We want to make sure that we're reaching out to them because they're looking for things to do too. It's not just us looking for places to practice. They may not have coaches. This particular pool did not have a coach at the time. So I was able to cooperate with them to get us some pool time for our Port City divers.
Okay, Susan from Windy City Divers has a question. Can you use
Sure.
chalk, sidewalk chalk, instead of mats, or did it wash
Well,
away?
We used sidewalk chalks just to mark where we were putting our mat. So each day I come in and I remark it with sidewalk chalk. So then the divers know where the mats are going. I mean, yes, it does wash away some because the divers are wet. So it does wash away some, but it can be redone and it's inexpensive. You go to the Dollar Tree.
Well, next question comes from Doe Krug, one of the lesson coaches at Mission Viejo. She wants to know, how about a hot tub?
A hot tub. We don't have a hot tub here, but my understanding is that you would have to check with your local health department or the CDC. So I wouldn't know that answer at this time.
Oh. Okay. We have a comment here. Thanks so much. Parents ask everyone using the ladder. Okay. How about using the ladder? Everybody's touching the same metal.
From what I have read, and from what our health department said, because we're outside and because we're in chlorinated water, as long as the kids are not, constantly touching their face and eyes and like that when they're out of the water, we should not have a problem. That is going to be something that you all are going to have to consider yourselves. I personally am not letting them use the ladder right now. They're just pushing up on the concrete side. And the reason I'm doing that is I've got to strengthen those arm muscles back up again after being out of the pool for so long.
Okay. Next question comes from Kathy. She wants to know how many divers per board at your pool.
4.
And you were limited to the number you could bring in.
Yes,
is that correct?
we're limiting each of our classes to 8 students at a time, 4 on low board, 4 on high board. I believe you have a video of the divers transferring from low board to high board, swimming across the water. They've also been doing clockwise or counterclockwise, but just making sure that those two groups stay distance from each other and distance from the two groups.
Okay, well, before we get to Cliff's question,
and they switch off from that. I'm trying to let them have a little bit of fun with it because I want to keep them active in it.
okay, great. And so you could actually have them going in a circle, all following one pattern.
Absolutely. You can. There's a lot of ways you can do it. It's just you got to be creative.
Okay, that's how our grocery stores are now. They're one-way lanes.
Yeah, that's
okay?
it. One-way lanes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, next question from Cliff. How did you use the locker rooms? Did you mark where they could go?
No, actually, we sent out a letter to the parents before we started and said, number one, the bathrooms will be only open for toilet use only. They are not allowed to change. They cannot shower afterwards. They need to come or must come to practice with their suits already on. If they want to change in their car, that's their business. I'm not going to worry about it. But generally, we are not using locker rooms. We have very small facilities for that. So literally, we're using it for toilets only.
Wow, that was a good question. Next question is from Steve from Centennial Diving. Did you have to check their temperature before they could participate?
We are not checking temperatures. We did ask the parents to make sure that they're keeping track of the health of their children. And if their temperatures are even elevated, then we prefer that they not come.
Okay. Cliff has a follow-up question. He wants to know who limited your number of practice.
Oh, I did. I set the number of practice because I did it based on what our city and county is saying, groups no larger than 10. So I set it at 8 divers so I could have 2 coaches on deck or a coach and a lifeguard depending on what day it is.
Okay,
Some days we have a certified lifeguard who actually dives with us. So that way we can make sure that we're adhering to no more than 10 on our side of the pool.
Okay, so you are limited to 10. You couldn't
Correct.
take 11 or 12. Okay.
Yes.
Next, from Judge Russ, are your practices shorter than usual?
Right now, we are doing full 2-hour practices, and we're doing 5 days a week. We have required our divers to sign up for no more than 2 days a week because we're actually trying to finish up our spring season as much as we can. But even if they were signed up for 3 days a week before, what we're doing is we're saying you can do 2 days a week, and then I will send you a tax letter so that you can discount that on your taxes for next year for the balance of that amount.
Okay. Well, it seems like this might be a model for other coaches when they proceed to their pool management and want to start to open up their pool. I know there's a couple swim teams about to get in the water, and we want to keep our divers in. The coach can be far enough away. We can keep the divers away. I think if people see this, they might get the idea that maybe it can be done. Maybe we can show this model to pool managers. Now, Jimmy Adams from Riverside, California wants to know, can parents watch practice? What have you done with them?
We have expressed to the parents that they will not be allowed in the facility. They can stay in their car or, with the air conditioning on because it's already hot here, or they can be out in, we have a side yard that has tree covering or whatever. They can bring their own chairs. They can socially distance and talk to other parents while they're out there.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered a fair amount.
Yep.
Steve Fluwelling, son of the famous Herb Fluwelling, the inventor of the bubble maker, has a question. Let's read it on screen here. I think the biggest problem is the high-touch surface areas. What are you doing for trampoline and dry board?
Well, we don't have a trampoline and dry board here, but I think that when you're talking about having kids do dry land, that's going to be a special situation. I think that as we move forward, if the pools don't open, we're definitely going to have to take a look at how to deal with that. and how to make sure. And I think a lot of places are just saying you've got to wash your hands and sanitize before you come in. You've got to have your equipment sanitized before practice. As they leave, sanitize again, and sanitize after practice. And we are actually, with our mats, we are sanitizing every day after practice, and we're putting them in the sun to dry, to make sure that we've got the Clorox cleanup on them for a minimum of 5 minutes, which is the recommended amount of time.
Okay. Eric from California wants to know, for children 7, 8, 9, how do you handle getting the kids in?
I actually have no one that age group right now, and we are not accepting anyone. I think I have one coming for a tryout tomorrow, but we're not going to be doing that until we open for full summer workout. So I would think that would be a little bit more difficult, because at that age they're a little bit more touchy-feely, and they're a lot more. It's a lot harder. But you know what? I'm thinking that the yoga mats is really kind of like carpet squares in kindergarten. And it kind of helps to keep them to know where their personal space is.
Well, great, because that leads right into the next question from SMU diver Krista Wilson, daughter of the most famous family in town, Dick and Ida Wilson. Wants to know what happens to an athlete if he fails to, or she fails to, follow social distancing guidelines. What's your policy?
My policy in that case would be to talk to the parent. So the parent can reinforce it. That would be the first. If they are not doing their social the first time, as second time, they would definitely have to rethink their participation at this time.
Okay. Somebody's asked the question: is your insurance in effect?
My understanding from AAU is, as long as that the facility has underwriting to it, as in we have put them as an additional insured, and as long as we're following the policies of AAU and with our local and state health department, that we are in good shape, that yes, we are covered. But we have to follow the same rules as we would otherwise.
Okay, well, Barb, this has been very informative. I hope people like it. I think we're going to have a little bit more of these. On Tuesday, we're going to have yoga for divers, and we're going to expand this as much as we can with the limited tools that we have. We're all at home staying safe. One more question from Eric from California. Follow up to the young ones. What about going to the car, to the pool deck alone?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the guidelines have there. I mean, my recommendation would be that the parents give them some. We also have sanitizing hand sanitizer here, so they can hand sanitize on the way in. They can wash their hands at the station. They're about to go into chlorinated water, and they're supposed to be social distancing anyway. So to me, it's one of those things where each group has to do what they're comfortable with and what the guidelines are for the particular area.
Well, I'm not a doctor, and I don't give any meetings every day on TV, but it also seems like the child would be social distancing at home with the parent. Mm-hmm. And if the parent walks in, it should be...
If they're not feeling well, we encourage them not to attend. Yep. I mean, even if they're just not feeling well because they have, allergies, and they're having a higher allergy day because of the pollen in the air, we definitely encourage them to stay home.
Okay, now a question from Craig Doloff, the head coach at South Shore Diving in Massachusetts, wants to know how many kids per board in line?
One, because with the social distancing, we only have one yoga mat that's right in front of the diving board ladder, and then the next mat from that is 6 feet away from that mat.
Okay, from the Merchant Marine Academy, Johan wants to know, since you're limited to a number of divers, are you running your practices back to back?
We are only holding one practice a day right now because it's not quite warm enough, and because all of our kids are still doing online school. We try to make sure we're doing it during a time of day when the sun is the highest so that they don't freeze to death, and also making sure that they're able to finish their studies before they come in the afternoon. So we're only running one right now. There's a swim program that's here actually now. They're running 2 programs, and they're running, I believe, 15 minutes in between so they can have everyone exit and then the next group enter.
Okay. I think I have a better understanding of Eric's question now with the younger divers. He sent me a note. I believe he's referring to walking the diver in and handing him off to the coach and the program.
Okay, well, in our case, we don't have a problem with that specifically because we're in a residential area. So the parent can stand at the car and clearly see the athlete coming into the building. And by the time the athlete has stepped about, you can see a hallway behind me. By the time they're halfway through that hallway, I can see them, or even before that. So, I mean, as far as handoff in my case, that's not a problem because they don't have to walk through a locker room or another area before they get to me. And from what I understand, there are some facilities where they have a secondary door where you do not have to go through a locker room. So perhaps maybe one way to alleviate that would be have a diving entrance that's closer to the diving well that the coach can control entering and exiting, so he or she knows how many people are coming in and when they can close the door, and that way it will be safe so that other people cannot come in.
Okay. Also, I think you have a fence that you can see through, so the parent
That's
knows
correct.
the child's there and
Right.
safe.
And the parents can actually sit outside the immediate facility under the trees and still see practice. And they can't see it well, but they can see that their child is there and participating.
Okay, great. And they can also see how well you're coaching. Now, Susan,
Thank you.
with a repeat question from Windy City, wants to know, are there any other swimming programs going on at the pool at the same time?
Actually, our pool, since it's a commercial-sized pool, we do have a yellow rope barrier down the center of the pool. Our health department has basically stated that we are large enough that we can be running two programs at the same time because we can stay more than 10 feet apart. Our entire program can stay more than 10 feet apart on both sides of the pool. So as I'm sitting here now, there's a swim program going on with a 6-lane pool, and then the diving well it's an L shape. So the diving well is on a section of the pool where we can totally separately, and if we needed to, because we're staggering, we don't have to, but if we needed to, there is a secondary exit that we could use for swimming to exit one area and diving to exit one area. But we've done a good job of working with the swim team to make sure that you're staggering when we're coming and going.
Okay. Also, how many swimmers per lane? Can you tell from there?
Right now, I'm seeing they have they're staging their swimmers on both ends of the pool. So they are crossing in front of each other while they're in the water. So currently they have, I think, 10 in there. They're not using all the lanes. I mean, they're using all the lanes, but they're not doubling up on all the lanes. But when they stop, they're on opposite sides of the pool.
Okay, so they're crossing in the middle, but they're at either end.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other advice you want to pass on as people start to open up their pools, I hope?
Well, number one, I hope that everyone gets to open their pool because I know that the coaches want to get back in. I know the divers want to get back in. As we move forward, I'm talking to a bunch of different people that know things more than I do about trying to figure out how to do virtual meets and dryland virtual meets, so that perhaps even if we're not able to get in until the fall, that we have a way to keep our athletes engaged. Have them reaching for goals and objectives, and to let them maybe, my divers might dive against Chris Klein's in Texas, or maybe we'll dive against Boston area diving one day.
Okay. Maria from Flip and Rip wants to know how you handle the disinfecting of the 3-meter ladder.
Literally, all you should have to do is to spray it down with Clorox cleanup. That's what we've been doing. Is the Clorox cleanup has a high enough content of bleach in it that it should, that's one of the things that they have been telling us in our part of the country, at least, is that things that are bleach oriented, that are have a certain percentage of bleach in it, that those are fine to use for that.
Okay. Another question from Johan here. He wants to know if it'll be available on live on YouTube. Eventually, we will have the knowledge, but unfortunately, it depends on somebody who's not as not as smart as they should be. And
that's not me, by the way, people.
it's somebody else in the program. but they are getting better, and I do expect that this will be on several different social media formats going forward as we get a little bit better. We have a couple things lined up in the future. If you wait and watch, I think you'll be pretty pleased. Barbara's been nice enough to be one of the first ones to take this on, and we did a couple test models, and this is obviously better than some of the test models we did. Now, Jennifer, one of the top divers, master divers in the world from Texas, wants to know, do you have to clean the 3-meter ladder after each diver? This seems to be a pretty common question.
You know, from what we're experiencing, we are outside and we're in chlorinated water that is up to the standard of the chlorination.
Yep.
I don't have little bitty kids, and I know that a lot of our athletes have been practicing not touching their face and not touching, their face and their eyes and their nose, and their mouth, and my understanding is that based on the fact that they are soaking in chlorine water, and considering that we are also, taking care of that at the end of it, as long as they're not, putting their hands in their mouth and swallowing a lot of water, we should be at least in the zone of doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay, well,
is it going to be 100% safe? Nothing is 100% safe. I'm trying to give options, and like Joe said, I'm not a doctor. I'm following as close as I can the guidelines that are given to us by our state and local officials.
Okay, well, that leads me to my question. Were your kids using Sammys? I mean, throwing them down? Do they have their own little spot to put the Sammys? Maybe that's a consideration.
They have been using Sammys, yes, mostly because it's so cold. I do not allow my divers to chew on their Sammys because that's just gross. Most of them have been leaving their Sammys in the water near the edge. Some of them have been putting them on the ground, but our ground is concrete. It's not metal. It's not plastic. It's not indoors. That's going to be up to each coach. So far, we have not seemed to have a problem with it. So I would say that's going to be something that everyone would need to investigate on their own.
Okay, well, we had a couple more Sammy questions.
Okay.
But I think we pretty much covered it. They want to know if you spoke to your divers about the Sammys. But, when you start talking about hands and mouth, we all naturally thought of the divers standing in line with nothing else to do but chew their Sammy.
Yeah, no, my divers are not allowed to chew their chamois, just period. I mean, yuck.
Yeah.
No. If I see them doing it, I take it away from them. But before, now I would make them put it away if they're going to use it in that way. But right now we're trying to make sure that they're able to stay warm so that they don't, so we don't have them wanting to stop because they are getting too cold.
Well, Sammys and hot tubs don't seem like a great idea right now.
No, not really. No.
Until
Especially
we get over this.
Put in their mouths.
Okay. Well, if anybody else has a question, let's get it in quick. If not, we'll wrap this up. I'm pretty pleased with how it went. I'm glad that so many people were here to interact and ask questions. And I look forward to doing a couple more of these. Okay. Well, Barb, thank you very much. We're going to finish this. It will be available on Facebook as a video for those who want to come back to it later. Question here. Does the coach wear a mask? I noticed in the first videos you were wearing a mask, but it wasn't on.
That's correct. I was actually going to the grocery store to pick up groceries for my mother-in-law after the event.
Yeah.
And literally there was only two of us here. It was me and and another coaching friend of mine who I hope is watching this video. And so he was doing the video for me, and I had it on because for me it's easier because that particular kind of mask, then I can pop it up and down. So if a parent needs to come in to talk to me about something, I am prepared to make sure that they are safe.
Okay. Well, we appreciate all the feedback. It's only going to encourage us to do more. So thank you very much. I see a lot of very well-known people here. Okay. Hey, Adam. Thank you. Okay. Well, we're going to conclude this one, and we'll be posting it soon. And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody get back to the water.
We're all looking forward to it, and let's see what the summer has.
Yeah, we'll see how good, because of the cooperation, I'll be coaching here all summer. I should have a fabulous tan.
I just hope you have teams that you can compete against. But I'm sure that'll be another issue.
Listen, if I get this virtual dive meets thing going on, we're going to be able to compete internationally if we want to. I'll get another grassroots program in South America or in Europe or in China, and we'll have at it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Looking forward to doing another one. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.